Welcome to Pull Addiction, where I like to do pull and billiards equipment reviews as well as anything pull and billiards related for that matter. And this is the second part of the shaft comparison videos that I'm doing on all the shafts that I reviewed so far on the channel. And those shafts are the HXT Skinny, Predator Revo, Q-Tech Cynergy, and the BQ Prime M. I've also thrown in a regular shaft in for reference purposes. Now, as you can tell, I'm not around in my normal surroundings as I'm back out on the road for work. However, I did finish filming all this footage before I left in the hopes that I can get the video done while I was on the road. If you haven't seen the first part of this video, I'll put a link in the description below as well as a clickable link somewhere up here on the screen so you can check that video out. And in that video, I went over primarily the physical attributes of these shafts, and in this video, it's going to be more of the shafts in action. I also want to preface this video saying that the outcome of these tests can vary based off of table conditions, ball conditions, and just natural human error. I try to be as consistent as possible with every shot though, so it turned out pretty good, I think. Also, this footage was shot all at once because I didn't want to create any subliminal bias with reviewing any of the test results. So I filmed it all at once to give a best showing of just the tests and let the chips lie where they lie. Now, some of the things we're going to cover today in this video is going to be a slow motion deflection test in soft, medium, and firm hits, a long rail slow motion deflection test in soft, medium, and firm as well. And then I did a straight in shot with side English, and the hopes on that test was to increase the distance between the object ball and the cue ball to see how far you can go before the deflection was too much to make the ball. So that was a pretty interesting test, and you can see the results on that. After that, I have some slow motion up close hits of the shaft hitting the cue ball. And finishing up the video, I have some shot examples of draw, force follow, and I have a few off angle, off center shots as well. Now, I'm going to do something a little different in these videos too, where I'm going to do some voiceovers to help explain some of these tests and what was going on. And this is all to kind of help speed up the video because this video is going to be another really long video, and I want to try to keep it as short as possible. Also, stay tuned to the end. I'll give some quick final thoughts on this particular video, and I may actually have to do some kind of recap video to kind of go over all the test results and the outcomes and try to explain them all together in a recap video. So we'll have to stay tuned for that one as well. So without any further ado, let's just get started. Real quick before we get started here, I was using a Joe Rimpey training cue ball so I could get more of a consistent striking point on the cue ball for this testing. What I failed to realize though is the Joe Rimpey cue ball was actually a little bit lighter than a typical cue ball. My Measle Aramith ball comes in at about 5.9 ounces, which is about the typical weight of a cue ball, whereas the Joe Rimpey is 5.6 ounces. This can affect the testing a little bit and might have a little bit greater deflection measurements that we have on this test versus maybe something else that you've seen out there on the internet. But I wanted to go ahead and throw that disclaimer out now so you guys know that it was about 0.4 ounces lighter than a typical cue ball with this Joe Rimpey training ball. All right, this is the off-center straight-in shot test using 2 tips of right-hand English. This is a test that I kind of came up with on my own to try to show how far the gap could be between the cue ball and the object ball using that side spin before you would miss the shot. And I'm using the tape off to the side there to write down the measurements as I go, so I have a visual representation of how far back each shaft was using that 2 tips of right-hand spin before it would miss the actual shot. So sit back and watch this. All right, this is a second round of the Revo and Prime M. If you notice on the first test, I was so far back on that original line that the rail was actually getting in the way from getting a good consistent hit. So what I ended up doing is I repositioned the object ball further away from the pocket, which makes it more difficult to make with the side spin, and redid the test just for the Revo and the Prime M to see how they stacked up against each other. All right, this is the results from the first test. If you look down the line, the first one there is the regular, followed by the HXT, then the Cynergy, and then we have the Revo, followed by the Prime M on the original line. And you can see the visual representation of how far away the cue ball was from the object ball and still made it with the two tips of right-hand English. This is the results from the second one with the Revo and Prime M. If you look right there, right close to each other, Prime M actually was a little further up than the Revo, which was kind of the opposite way from the first test. So really what I found out is the Revo and Prime M are very, very similar when it comes to this particular test with the two tips of right-hand English. All right, with the angled off-center shots that I did 3 different camera angles. And what I was trying to do is show the shots from different angles. And I ended up editing it 2 different ways, and I couldn't figure out which way I liked the most. So one way is just a standard cut between each angles as I'm doing the shots. And the other one is all the camera angles on the screen at the same time. Like I said, I couldn't decide which one I liked better, so I decided to throw them both in here and see what you guys think. So let me know in the comments section below which one you prefer, and I'll try to do that in the future videos. All right, some key takeaways I have after editing this video is the deflection shots. Some of them were kind of had outliers. That's kind of the reason why I wanted to do 3 of each speed to kind of compare and average those together. So it was kind of interesting to see that some of them were a little bit wider gapped and not as consistently in one location. Other areas that was kind of interesting. One thing I noticed that I can't really convey in the video itself is, but the carbon fiber shafts take a lot less effort to maneuver the ball around, particularly the Revo. The Revo you get really great action off of, and it's really easy to move that ball around. BQ Prime M comes in at a close second in that too, whereas the Cynergy, because it has a little bit of a softer feel kind of hit, it takes a little bit more effort. But that was another thing that I thought was kind of interesting as well. Other than that, this video went pretty well, and I can't really complain too much about it. Now, I am going to do a recap where I'm going to kind of like rack and stack everything that's happening in the 2 videos and do a quick summary of everything, and then kind of like show where everything falls as far as how much this shaft is low deflection compared to the other one based off of whatever test. So stay tuned for that one. I apologize for not putting it in this one, but this video is already running over 30 minutes and I just don't want to keep it that long for you guys. So hopefully the next video will be a lot shorter, but it'll have more of the results of what happened during these tests. So stay tuned for that one. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the like button below. And if you have any comments, put them in the comment section. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. I really would appreciate it. And also hit the notification bell so you know when I put out new content. And I'll see y'all in the next one.